There we go. All right. So what you heard from that video, a lot of it should sound like review at this point, things that you've been hearing, things you're familiar with. And if so, that's good. I've been doing my job. If not, haven't. So I show you that video, not really to present anything new, but just kind of sort of summarize where we've been at and hear somebody else say some of the stuff that I've been saying and the book reading has been saying.
Okay.
But just quick, any reflections on that video? Any thoughts about that video?
Yeah, I had a thought that you never know when you're talking to somebody who might really be in that kind of a crisis. So put you in a really unique position to, I don't know, be the hands of God at times.
Yeah. Definitely. We just are unaware of what's going on, and even the person sitting next to us in the pew, what's really going on in their lives. Don't really know whether that moment that we are listening to somebody has the potential to be extraordinary in their lives or not. So just a reminder for us to always be on our, rather than on our toes, on our ears. Any other thoughts about the video?
Yes, how
Really?
important parenting is. What if that young woman's parents had explained to her about the biology that was going to be happening in her life? She would have known, and she wouldn't have even gotten upset. She would say, oh, wow, that's what my parents told me, and now it's happening.
Yeah.
What a switch that would have been.
It's funny because Miriam and I were, I was going lay in her bed with her at night before she goes to bed, and we say a prayer, and then usually just lay in there with the animals. Wants me to rub her back or scratch her back, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, she's in 5th grade. And then I was thinking about when I was in 5th grade, and there was this girl in my 5th grade class who started her grade in the middle of class. And it just hit me while I was sitting there with her. Miriam is that age. And so I don't repeat this. I'm not going to share private information about Miriam. But I said to her, Miriam, you're getting so big, and soon you're going to have your period, and then I'm going to cry. And she goes, Dad, shut up. Because I was just trying to see, like, you know, I was almost certain I knew that her mom had talked to her about it, but I just wanted her to know too that, you know, that was something that I was aware of, and that sexual stuff is, there's no reason to hide it and not talk.
That was
And you
brave.
got-
That was
you
brave
got
of you to say that, Tony.
What's that?
That was brave to say that.
Yeah, I didn't know what I would get.
Shut up.
Any other thoughts about the video? All right. Any
I have one.
Joanne.
Just because you realize, you know, he kind of downplayed the qualifications that someone would need. And I was thinking, well, if I didn't need to sleep at night, I could do that for somebody all night long. I think, no, Joanne, back away.
Are you looking for more volunteer opportunities? Is that-
No, but it's so it speaks to passion, to your passion of caring, when you hear that without a great deal of training, if you just know how to be quiet and listen and not judge, which I thought was a huge message.
Yeah.
That you could do this too, and it would be
Yeah.
a gift. It would be great. You
Yeah.
didn't have to sleep.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
do you want the dumb take on it?
Yeah,
Just
please.
totally ruin the atmosphere. What I heard made me think I was Crocodile Dundee saying to his American girlfriend, why do people go to counselors? I don't understand. Don't you have mates? And it just always struck me how important friends are, and just the average person that listens, that is like, I talk to my friends. But this is not to disparage counselors because
Right,
I think they are invaluable, but just to put up a little bit higher the importance of being a mate.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I am not a trained counselor. I don't have a counseling degree. I utilize these techniques when people come and talk to me for pastoral counseling. And I would say if I feel like it's something beyond my expertise, I'll refer the person to a counselor. And I usually will encourage, I'll give them a name of a counselor, but usually 2 sessions of just listening kind of takes care of 90% of the things that people are dealing with. And I'm not a trained counselor, I don't have my degree in, I have an undergraduate in marriage and family studies, which means we get a lot of these listening skills. But most of what I do is just utilize these kind of things and utilize it not as a skill to fix you, but because I really care about people. And I feel like the best way to care about somebody who's coming and talking to me is to use these techniques. That's the best way I can love them in their time of need. And I see it over and over and over again. Some people will go on to do counseling or to see a psychiatrist. But I'd say that's 10% of the people. So you all have the ability to do some of this stuff for people in your lives. And you all are connected to your loved ones and your friends more so than any counselor and any pastor could be. They trust you more than they do when they go pay somebody or they go talk to the pastor or whatever. They trust you more. You already have what the counselor has to build in those initial sessions is that trust. Since you already have that, you're already far ahead of them. So now you just take these skills and just kind of use them when the opportunity presents itself. Good thoughts. Let's look at the packet that I sent to you. And I think it came kind of a mixed order. So I'm going to ask you to look for page 88.
I didn't get mine, Tony.
You didn't? Okay.
I think it's still floating in the sky.
Page 88.
I don't see page numbers. I see you sent
Okay.
9 documents,
Yeah.
which I
So-
printed out.
It looks like it says at the top of it, attentive listening skills,
Okay.
number 1, and it looks like this.
Well, a lot of them do.
Some of them
It's
do.
actually the
Yeah.
5th page.
But it says,
One of the latest spam pages.
it says number 1. Sorry that
Yeah, and it's the 5th one that you sent there were 3 threes, and it's the number 5 of the documents that you sent.
Okay.
let me see.
Need someone to listen.
Hold on just a second.
What does it say at the top?
Try to-
My first one says summarize,
They don't want
invite,
Big sign on their head.
Attentive listening skills,
ask,
and then it says attend, look, listen,
acknowledge.
track.
Ah, okay, got it.
There is not listening.
Sorry.
How far he's got runs out.
Oh, I think that's Tony's screen.
Select a window. Oh, wait. I think I know what I have to do. The thumbnails are up.
And I'm not trying to
No,
control it
Yeah.
if you lost.
yeah.
Okay, sorry, Marlene. I'm having this issue where once I share my screen, then I lose you all. Lose the video of you all. So I'll bring you a copy with me tomorrow if you don't get it. But I will read what's on there so you don't need actually have it in front of you. And I'll hold it up here too. So what we're going to talk about tonight is called the listening cycle. And
Just a minute. What if I check out for just a minute and forward your email?
I won't be able to get into it, Shirley. So
Yeah,
don't-
she can't get in while she's on, so I'm gonna show you lots of visuals, so. Okay, so this is the listening cycle. Let me scoot back. Sorry. Again, it's a mat. The listening cycle, and it's backwards, isn't it?
No?
Oh, it's not, okay. So there's
It's just it.
Okay.
It's just, he's got
He's
the whole
turning.
thing.
the number one there that you should see on the page that I asked you to pull up, it says attend. Okay, just a quick overview: attend, acknowledge, invite, summarize, ask. Those are the 5 parts of it. We're going to talk about each one of those parts.
There's acknowledge.
So far what we've done is we've talked about the communication.
Ask.
Tony,
Yeah,
can I request that we mute everybody because we're having a hard time hearing you?
yeah. Sorry. Let me mute you. Okay, so far what we've done is we've talked about the awareness wheel, which is not only a way to kind of structure your listening, but it's also a way for you to communicate. Let's see if we can say the parts again. So we want to start with the most important thing, which is prayer.
Right.
Prayer. Yeah, and then we start with the sensory information. Then we go on to the thinking, to the feeling, to the wants, and then to the actions. And that kind of gives us a guide for not only listening to people and trying to help them to get out what's inside of their head with whatever issue they're dealing with, but it also helps us to very clearly talk about from our point of view, if we're trying to communicate with somebody else, and help them get inside of our head. That's the most difficult part about communication, is that we don't share each other's brains. So we're limited by trying to get all that's in here into the other person's brain. And that's not very easy to do for lots and lots of reasons. So what we're talking about now, though, is kind of as we end our time together tonight and next week, is the listening cycle. So the first page you have there is attend. So someone comes to talk to you, or you ask them, hey, how are things going? And they say, oh, things are going fine. Immediately you go, their body language is not backing up what they're verbally saying. So you're listening to this person, paying attention to them, putting the cell phone away, those kind of things. It says here on this sheet that attending to the person means that you give the talker your careful attention. You adjust your body posture to mirror the talker and listen with your eyes and ears. Whenever someone is talking to you, have you ever talked to somebody and they do this? And that's saying to them lots and lots of things without actually saying something to them. But when you're speaking to somebody and they're doing this, first of all, you're closed, your arms are closed. So it's signaling to them that you're not very open, subconsciously signaling to them that you're not very open to what they're having to say. Now, if you have your cell phone, especially, and you're going, oh yeah, tell me all about it. So we want eye contact is important, not staring them down, you're not going to do that, but giving them eye contact, giving them attention, having an open posture. If you're sitting with them, let yourself be relaxed and comfortable. Don't cross your arms like this, but be open, and turning towards them, facing them, and try not to let anything be distracting. When somebody comes and talks to me in my office, I'm sitting right across from them, facing them. You may have seen like old movies where they come to a counselor's office to talk to them, and the person is sitting on a couch laying down, and the counselor sitting, kind of like across the room, almost like taking notes. They changed all that because they realized that is not given the message that that needs to be given, which is I'm here to listen to you rather than study you as a experiment or something. I also don't sit, if you go into somebody's office and they have a desk sitting there, that's just a divider between you and the person. It kind of makes it seem like you're going to talk to the expert, especially if they have all the degrees hanging behind them on the wall and that stuff. So if you look, my new office is designed as a listening place. If you've been in there, it is a relaxed living room kind of setting. There's an intention behind the way I designed it. It's not a pastor's office. It's a place to go and be able to talk on a couch, for me to be able to sit in a little rocking chair, have a candle lit. There's not distractions on the walls. It's a very, very quiet, very peaceful place because all of that goes into listening. So you can't, you're not going to be able to, we're not going to be able to recreate this out in our lives somewhere when we're just going through our day-to-day routine. But there are things that we can do in those moments to give the person, let them know that we're attending to them. Put the cell phone away. Say, can we go step over here? It's a little quieter over here. Just be aware of that. That's an important part of listening is taking just a moment just to say, let's create the environment that we need in order for me to be able to hear you. Now, again, that's not always possible. Turn the TV off, turn the computer off. If you're at home and you're talking, just give them the message that nothing else is important right now. You're important. You're the most important thing. And I don't want there to be anything else in my hands or anything to distract you. That goes a long way. So just don't do that. And then when we're attending, of course, we're giving them eye contact. We're listening, we're looking at their body language to see if their body language is matching what their words are. And it's okay to say, you're saying that you sound really happy about all this, but your facial expressions are coming across as you're stressed or you're feeling really sad. And then sometimes people go, yeah, I am. No, you caught me, you got me. And then they'll open up and talk more about that. So, you want to listen not only to the words, but to the sounds of the words. One thing that I know some counselors will do is they actually have a rocking chair for the person who's coming for counseling to sit in, because how fast they're rocking kind of shows them, whether they're stressed or not. It's just, so pay attention to body movement, all that stuff. It says here, breathing, taking a deep breath as you begin to listen is always an important thing. That can just be part of the prayer, to just that simple, and in your head you say, God, open my ears or something like that. Spirit, help me to listen. It's something very simple, and just saying it privately. It just sets, all this stuff kind of sets and lays the foundation for being able to really to listen well. If you'll turn then to the next page, acknowledge. That's number 2 on your sheet. The second part of the listening cycle.
It's right here. Just give me a second.
Tony, about the
Shirley.
prayer. If you're just, if I'm talking to someone from Trinity, that would be very appropriate. If I'm talking to somebody down the street who is Buddhist, it may or may not. But I could even start with, let's just sit here and have a small quiet time before we start our discussion.
Yeah. I mean, you can either do a silent prayer in your head, or if you think it's appropriate, and you know the person well enough. Yeah, that's a good way of saying it. Is like, but before we talk, what you're getting ready to say sounds really important, and I just want to make sure that I'm centered and focused. Can we just take a deep breath and pause for a minute and let me make sure I'm ready? Because I want to
Okay.
hear you very well.
Yeah.
If they are somebody that you know is a believer in God, and you think they might be open to it, I think people will appreciate that.
Yes.
I know they do when they come for pastoral counseling. When I say, can we start with a prayer?
Yeah.
And they always say yes.
Yes.
That might seem strange and that might push you out of your comfort zone, and that's probably not going to always be appropriate. So I'm not asking you to do that.
Hmm.
But I would say that if you feel that you know them well, and that can open up, that can really help out a lot.
Hmm.
So thanks, Shirley. Okay, so in acknowledge, this is the time where we're letting them know that that we're listening to them. We're getting what they're saying. It says on the page, acknowledgements are small fragments, words, phrases, or brief sentences that attempt to note accurately what the talker is experiencing. To acknowledge means you, and then there are 3 points. Show respect for and accept the talker's experience as being valid and legitimate for him or her. This does not necessarily mean you agree. No, we've talked about that. Your experience may be totally different. It just means that you accept their experience. You allow their experience to be valid for them. By acknowledging it does not mean that it's valid for you. It doesn't mean that you're agreeing with what they're saying necessarily, but we have to acknowledge that for them, that's the reality. That's their reality. And just let that be whatever it is. I've sat with lots of people where I've listened to them and I thought, man, I wouldn't think that way, or I don't think that way, or I would experience that differently. But that's not helpful in listening. What's helpful is to try to experience it the way that they've experienced. Try to hear it the way they understand the world and the way they understand life. The second one, go with rather than go against the talker's experience. To do this, you try to connect with or even amplify rather than block, sidetrack, or react to the experience. It shows the talker that he or she has your moment-to-moment attention, understanding. So you're giving them space to be able to talk and go where they're going. Let them go where they're going. Don't try to manipulate, even through listening, we can try to manipulate the direction of the conversation. And then what that means is that we let our agenda, hiding it, get in the way. They're the guide in listening, right? We're just going along with them in their journey. We're in the passenger seat. They're in the driver's seat. Okay. And they know, as the guy said in the video, they've lived in this city for 100 years, and we're just visitors to this city. So telling them which way to go makes no sense. Even if we think that we've already figured it out, they've lived there for 100 years. How old they are, The third one, we formulate brief voiceovers as the talker speaks. Please do not disrupt the talker, but rather act like sonar, confirming that you are on target. If you are off course, the talker will correct or calibrate your understanding. And then they give some examples down here. Oh, frustrating. What you're saying is really, really exciting. That's a bummer. That's a good one to use. I remember that one, bummer. I say that a lot with the kids. They say, "Dad, that's not fair because da 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 da," and then, why won't you let us do this? And we did that. And I said, yeah, that's a bummer. Yeah. And it's just telling them, I hear you. I hear your angst in this. And so, yeah, it's a bummer. The situation, they're telling you something and it sounds scary, or they say it's scary, or they say they were afraid. You say it's scary. And you see how, do the facial expression too, like you're experiencing that. There's not like a list that I can give you to memorize in this, but just keeping some of these in your back pocket. are good ones. Just remembering the feelings and repeating the feelings if you hear the feelings. The scary or frightening or how exciting or reading, all those things. Those are the words you're using. You're just throwing them in as you're listening to them to see if you're with them in the car or not. And they'll tell you, no, that wasn't scary. It was just more of a pain in the butt, or something like that. And then you can go, okay, good. So you're just kind of clarifying. This can sound really difficult to do. And when I first heard this kind of stuff, I thought, I've got to memorize all these phrases now. And how am I going to know that this phrase is going to be the right one to say at the right time? I would just say, trust your gut in this. If what you're seeking to do is to acknowledge their experience, it's going to happen sort of organically. And before we end tonight, we're going to do another thing where I let somebody talk about an issue. So just be thinking, if you have an issue that you're okay talking about tonight, we'll do a little bit of this and kind of talk through the listening side. Yeah, and then the nonverbal behaviors. Like I said, if it's scary, you may show that in your face. If it's happy, don't sit there and go, smile with them. Those kind of things. You're validating their experience through not just through what you're saying, but through body language as well. The third one is invite more information, and that is this page right here. It says number 3. I'm not going to read all this. All we're doing is when you get to a pause, and it seems like maybe they're done, and you give them a few seconds. I would even in your mind count to 4 or 5, because it's that silence sometimes where they will give you more information. So everything pauses and it's kind of an awkward silence, and that's okay. Silence is okay. If they don't continue to say more after 4 or 5 seconds, maybe even 7 seconds, you decide whatever's good in that moment. Those silent moments can seem like eternity. So you kind of got to count in your mind to make sure that you're given enough space, because sometimes the most powerful information will come after you count and give that 4 or 5, 6 seconds of silence. I don't know why that is, but I've always seen that happen over and over again. If I just sit there and in silence and wait, and I'll say in my head, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, I will, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5, usually about 5 or 6, some huge piece of information comes, some huge emotion, or the tears start. There's something that happens. And it's almost like the silence itself allows for that to push them into that place. Now, if they don't, and now it's feeling really, really awkward, then you can say, yeah, I'd like to hear more about that. That's probably the best one. They have a lot of other things on here, but could you tell me more about that? Is there anything else so I can understand it better? Or, I'm really enjoying listening to what you're having to say. Are there any more pieces of this situation that would help me to understand it better? But don't let that silence, don't mess up that silence. Okay, be comfortable with that silence. I was going to show you a PowerPoint. I can do it real quick. Oh, Waldo, please. You're not letting me be very attentive right now. Okay, so I'm going to show you this real quick and see. Listen, unscramble the letters.
Oh, interesting.
So, silence is listening. When nothing is going on, being silent can be the way we listen. Okay, and then number 4, summarize. We talked about summarizing. That's where we are using the awareness wheel, thinking through the awareness wheel, you know, to say basically what we've done before. Yes, you've told me all this detail and all this information. This person said such and such to you, and you thought this about it. And it made you feel this way, that kind of stuff. Just kind of going back and making sure that you got all the information right and helping them to hear what they said, because sometimes even though they said it, they didn't. Okay, and then the final one, number 5, ask. The only time we really ask questions is when we've done all those other things, when we've attended, when we've acknowledged, when we've walked our way through the listening cycle, and or we've run out of time. And usually that's what happens. We run out of time. And you know, then we can ask some questions, not give advice again, but just ask some questions. You know, what do you want out of this? Those things at the end of the awareness wheel. What actions are you going to take? What are you hoping to do about this? Usually they'll have an answer for it by that time, because you've helped them kind of sort it all out. And you've just helped somebody tremendously. You've given them something that very few people are going to give to them. You've given them a priceless gift at that point. You've taken the time to do that. And they're going to say, like he said in the video, thank you so much for listening to me. That was really great advice. And you're going to go. Yeah.
Tony, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, on the, just to go back to the invite page, it says that one of the statements you can make is, this is hard for me to hear, but I'd like you to continue. I wonder about this is hard for me to hear, because would that create a situation where they might hold back on for your benefit? Or are you putting yourself into the picture too much? Obviously not if they think it's a good idea, but that was my first reaction.
Yeah, I think what they mean by that is, let's say you're in a situation where somebody is telling you something that's really terrible, really, you know, they've gone through some real extraordinary pain. By you saying this is hard for me to hear, it's not that like, oh, you're making me uncomfortable, but it's more that, you know, it's hard for me to hear that you've gone through this. I love you so much. This hurts my heart to hear this for you. That kind of.
Yeah.
I think that's what they mean. Yeah. Yeah.
More sense to me.
But yeah, no, if it comes across as a judgment, and I could see how that statement come across as a judgment. You know, I'm too perfect, and I don't like listening to this kind of stuff.
Sully's my world.
What's that?
This sully's my world.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
My eyes are bleeding.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions about these? This listening cycle? Everyone have it memorized now? No, that's why we practice it. That's why you keep you practice this stuff, right? And you pull out these after you have a conversation. You pull out these resources, and if you want to get better at it, you look at it. You say, did I do that? What could I have done differently? You know, and you kind of analyze how the conversation went. You have your own time to debrief with yourself. If you want to be better at this stuff, it's practice. It's a discipline. So does anybody have I'm sorry, one more time. Any other questions about that? All right. Anyone have an issue that you'd be okay sharing? So I can kind of walk us through some of this, and we all can kind of take a shot at it too. It doesn't have to be anything, you know, terribly personal. It can be you're trying to decide what color to paint the living room.
I don't have an issue so much as I had an experience that I might share, and I had a little question as to what I did. It actually worked, but I was at a party and a friend came and sat down beside me and I said, "How are you?" And she said, "Oh, okay." And I said, "That sounds really conditional." And she said, "It is." And then she went right into it. And then I thought, well, it worked. And I wasn't trying to work her. That was
right.
just my gut reaction. But later I thought, could that sound judgmental in another situation? I mean, it didn't, it opened the door and she just unloaded. So that was great. But then I thought, did I sound judgmental by saying that sounds conditional? But I don't think so.
Well, I don't think you were I don't think you were, it sounds to me like you were picking up on what she was thinking and saying.
Yeah, it was
you gave her,
empathetic.
and you gave her the words
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah.
And if she opened up to you, then yeah, you definitely, it was
Good.
right on. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good thing.
Yeah, the statements that you use are not always going to be these statements that are on here. You come up with your own statements.
Sure.
Probably already have some in your life that you use.
Yeah, like that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Anyone have an issue?
Last week, but it's okay now.
Yeah, you did good.
Anybody trying to make a decision about something that's not terribly life-changing? Kathy, you're muted.
Who is he talking to?
I was hit.
Kathy.
I am trying to decide what color to paint my living room.
All right.
Funny you said that, and Deborah's laughing over there because she's the one I brought over to say, what color do I paint? It's not
Okay.
really an issue, but since you
No,
brought it up,
let's
I
talk
thought
about
it
it.
was
Let's use it.
funny.
Let's use it
Okay.
because we can keep it light, and that's
Yes.
good. That will help us kind of walk through this stuff. Okay.
Okay.
Oh,
Oh, I
you're
have
trying to decide what color to paint your living room.
I am. Then what?
And do you
I
have
am.
options? Do
It's
you have
okay.
lots
wait,
of
wait.
options? Or
It's an ugly, bland color right now, and I want something brighter.
okay.
Okay.
And what have you?
Deborah,
What have you?
step in here.
What have you done? What have you? Where are you at in the process?
Well, I've been looking at my favorite pictures that I have hanging on the wall, and I'm picking out what colors I like the most.
Okay.
And then Deborah, my friend, brought me this box of color chips to look at and to decide, but it's a bit overwhelming because there are an awful lot of colors out there.
Yeah. So are you feeling overwhelmed by it?
A little bit, but I think what I'll do is, well, I have two issues. One is my husband hasn't looked at them with me because I don't think this is a high priority for him at the moment. But I haven't asked him really about it. So, and then when I get overwhelmed, I'm going to bring Deborah back and ask her to please come help me narrow it down a bit.
Yeah, because as you're going through this process, Deborah seems like she's a really good resource for you.
I'm definitely think so. I'm bringing in the professional help. Yes.
She's your professional help.
Yes, she's my professional help.
What
Oh, yeah.
colors are you comfortable with? That would be nice.
Well, it's, one day my 4-year-old grandson asked me what my favorite color was, because for a 4-year-old, it's really simple. It's blue, because that's the color of the ocean and the sky. But for me, I told him, well, it just depends on the day. And so I think that's probably my trouble, is that it changes on the day. So that's why I went to the picture on the wall, which has blues and greens and orange, if I really want to get wild and crazy. And when I mentioned orange to Kevin, he kind of backed off a little bit. So I don't think he liked the idea of orange, but I do.
Okay.
Default color.
So
But that's
I
for
just,
the kitchen. The orange is for the kitchen.
so are you all gonna have to come to an agreement on it, or do you just get to decide?
Oh, no. Agreement.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I don't, no. no. I like my marriage. It needs to come to agreement.
And is it when Deborah comes over, is Kevin involved in the conversation?
He was not this first time. We can bring him in, but he was not this first time.
You said that with a little like slowed down a little bit.
Oh,
We can bring
good
Kevin in.
job. By the way, he's not here tonight. He's out of town. He doesn't think so, but he is rather opinionated. Yeah, so I definitely have to bring him in on this. And then I mostly, if I really want something, I can usually get it, but we negotiate pretty good. So he will have to be brought in upon it. And so I think probably the best is if I give him a few options and see how it goes and play it by ear.
Okay, so you've had good experiences with Kevin in trying to make decisions like this in the past.
Yes.
You all come to some kind of agreement, so you're not feeling overwhelmed. You're not feeling overwhelmed about coming to an agreement with Kevin. You're just feeling
No,
overwhelmed
no.
about all the options and
yes, on
And-
where to start. And I think, okay, so here's me going to answer my own question. Now that you've gotten me talking, I think probably I have to remember that it's just paint, and that I can paint one wall and then say, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? And then repaint it. So I think the resolution of this conversation probably, thank you for this good advice, Tony. I think what I will do is pick out a few of my favorites and paint swatches on the walls, and then see how I like it and how he likes it.
that sounds like a good idea. And you seem happy about that decision.
I am. What a good idea, Tony. Thanks for listening.
And
Thank you. How about
am I correct in that nobody really gave any advice there?
Correct.
Many people asked questions. I heard no advice given. That was
Yeah,
awesome.
I thought when she first said it, what do we usually do? Oh, I really like the color yellow.
Yeah,
I really like the color.
no, nobody did that. That was
Oh, I know.
super great.
I was biting my tongue.
Yeah, and I just want to say on Kevin's behalf, orange, orange,
Deborah, help me out here.
Orange can be good. Orange
Yeah.
is very good.
So
I had an orange wall. It was beautiful.
Here, see?
Yep.
Yes,
So-
Tony.
that conversation was not a life and death dilemma, right? But did you hear how much we learned about Kathy? How much we got to know Kathy better, how much we got to know her and Kevin better. Just the camaraderie of the relation, of that interaction, just through me kind of making the decision that I'm gonna let Kathy have the floor. She's gonna talk, and I'm gonna just try to see if I can find out a little bit more about it all, be curious about it. I don't care what color she paints in the living room. Why do I care?
I do.
What I-
No, I'm just kidding.
What I do care though, what I do care though is my relationship with Kathy and just getting to know her better and what she likes and what makes her work and makes her happy and all that stuff. So it doesn't have to be, that, oh my gosh, my child is addicted to drugs. It can be anything. We can use listening in anything. And it can make you into a person that people it not only blesses the person who's being listened to, but it really just brings joy into your life as well. Just because people like to share fun stuff with you and chat with you and kind of see you and they'll seek you out. I know a lot of pastors that people won't go talk to because the pastor is a terrible listener. And they'd rather go talk to anybody than the pastor. And I purposely got my undergraduate degree in marriage and family studies because I knew that if I was going to be a pastor working with people, I needed to have more skills in being able to listen and hear people because I just wasn't, nothing against my mom, but this is all of us. We're not raised in our society to listen. We're not given that as a gift. If you had that experience from your parents, you're the exception because our culture does a terrible job with listening. We are in constant competitive mode, in constant winning the argument mode and constant, type A driven personality kind of stuff. So we have to learn this stuff and put it into practice. I've known some pastors in my own life, just been incredible listeners, and I would go talk to them about anything. Part of it was because I felt like when I talked to them, they weren't going to share the information with anybody, and that's a big part of listening too. It's reminding the person that, hey, what you say here stays here. And then following through with that. Then there are some pastors I would never talk to because I know 30 minutes after talking to them, somebody else would know about exactly what I said, and I couldn't trust them.
Oh my God.
So, but that I say that to you too, that confidentiality part, even if it's something as simple as paint in the conversation we just had with Kathy right now, I'm not going to go repeat that to anybody else. Now, if there's some reason that I wanted to, or I felt like I need to, I might go back to Kathy and say, would it be okay for me to share that story? So that confidentiality part we haven't talked about, but if somebody feels like you're somebody they can trust to keep the information, that's another thing that's really missing today is people that confided in and that we can trust them to hold that information sacred. So, all right, we've done a lot of talking. And any reflections on the conversation with Kathy or on the information that we talked about tonight?
When
Just gonna say cornflower blue.
What's that?
Cornflower blue.
Okay.
Orange.
Orange, yeah. Okay, now we're gonna take a vote and we're gonna tell you what color your
Yeah.
walls are gonna be.
Yeah.
Kathy, I respect your orange, and you don't need to take advice from someone that wraps his pictures in Christmas paper every year. So
Oh, good. Glad to hear from you.
I think that's very clever. I like it.
it takes a bit of time.
At a time. It's Christmas. I thought the thing that one of the things I wrote down in the very first video, what he said was that judgment equals giving advice. And because I'm coming into this thinking I've got to learn not to give advice, which I do more often than I should, that was very poignant to me because giving advice to me is loving and helpful. It's not always. I get that. But I never thought of it in terms of judgment, which I abhor. And I understand how that can be judgmental. So I think it's going to make my discipline easier to look at the fact that I don't admire judgment. I am judgmental sometimes, and I'm trying not to be. So this is a really, really good reminder, I think.
Yeah, because when we give advice, and don't get me wrong, there are times for that, but when we give advice, what we're essentially saying, and what you're saying, Zoanne, is that I know better than you. And what he said in the video is that we might think we do, but we're not that person. Now, there are times that it's appropriate to say, what's worked for me? That's one thing I'll use a lot. What's worked for me? I don't know if it will work for you, but what's worked for me is, and that comes across as not being judgmental, because what you're saying is, I might be way off. And I just want to say, here's something that's helped me. Now, I will only do that though, after I've gone through a good time of listening. So the important thing is the advice, if the advice comes, if you just want to give it, if you have to give it, if you feel the need to give it, and I think we're called by God sometimes to give advice. So don't get me wrong. But as what I always go back to is Proverbs, that verse from Proverbs. The one that gives an answer before listening is a fool. The one that gives an answer before listening is a fool. So there may be an answer, or there may be advice that is called for, but not until we've cared enough about them to give them the floor.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's huge.
That's what worked for me. See, I'm giving you advice right now. I don't know if that will work for you though.
No, I like that.
Deborah, and you have to unmute yourself, Deborah. There you go.
There.
Okay,
That's my son on the phone, so I'm going to leave you now.
okay,
So I can talk to him.
okay. Bye, Deborah. Bye, Ted.
Okay,
Bye.
thank you all. Good night.
Good
Anyone else have
night.
any thoughts or questions?
Would you care to have a picture of my orange kitchen?
Woo, yes,
Yeah.
Okay,
I would.
I need your email.
Okay, I will get it to you.
I have
Is
I
it-
have a comment.
John,
My email's on the email that Tony sent.
Okay,
you'll see it on there. Yeah. John?
I'm just going to say the confidentiality thing is such a big deal. And, you know, it doesn't have to be a big formal conversation where somebody's bearing their soul, but I think sometimes you could just have a brief conversation and somebody mentions something confidential, especially if you've built up a trust where you don't have to go through this whole, you know, kind of a formal listening process. I mean, I can think of just confidences that I've kept for, 30 years and don't ever intend to break them. And I don't know, I guess to me, that is just one of the most pivotal things about listening is just, I don't know, maybe you have to kind of adopt your own standard and say, my standard is, I assume everything is confidential unless I'm told otherwise, but and each person has to decide kind of what their standards are. But I think that's a super big deal.
Yeah, thank you, John.
yes.
Yeah, and it's something I think we need to constantly stay mindful of and always kind of keep checking ourselves, because sometimes we can do it without even meaning to break confidence. When we just if we assume that, again, that Kathy's choosing to paint her living room, and was it your dining room or your living room? I forgot.
It's kind of the whole house, so it doesn't.
Yeah. So I can think, oh, that's not a big deal, so I might at church say, well, Kathy's thinking about painting her living room or her dining room. And we're not even intending to break confidence, because we just don't think, well, maybe it's not that big of a deal. So I would just say, kind of always check with the person and say, would it be okay if I talk to this person? Because we never know. We never know how important that particular issue might be to the person. Sometimes we find out when they come back and say, my daughter or my husband or whatever didn't know that we were going to be painting it, and so, and then you'd step back.
Kathy, if we run into Kevin, can we talk about the color orange?
Yes, you may. And in fact,
Okay,
Okay,
all right.
I encourage it.
okay.
Yes.
all right.
You can even throw in purple just to watch him squirm.
Okay, I didn't know this was gonna get risque towards the end, so I don't know about.
I love it.
All right. If nobody else has anything, then we are done. We have one more left to go. And we're just going to do Zoom for the last one too. I've just decided that some of the stuff that we did with the last class, I can work in. So the book needs to be finished by next Sunday if you haven't finished the book yet, because we're going to spend some time talking about that book. So it's going to be more kind of a book study, for us to reflect on the book. I'm not going to have really a lot of new information to give to you, but it will just be a time for us to summarize everything and talk more about the book. And I didn't give you a chance tonight to share any success stories that you've had with listening. So I will just say next week will be a time too to share any any success stories that you've had of listening, or failures that you've had from listening. That's okay too. We're all learning. And yeah, so it should be a fun time just to chat and hang out. Not a lot of new material next time. So sound good?
Yeah, good.
Sounds good. This has been
you.
great material.
Thank you. Yeah, it really is. Thank you.
You're very
Bye,
welcome.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Thank
Have a
you,
good night.
Tony.
Bye.
Take good care.